just to, real quick, I think what actually helps make this make sense is to see how easy it is to use. And since we're going to jump over to the vCloud Director part right now, I want to just show you it's this easy. Basically, you can make these jobs from one of 3 parent constructs of VMware, like vCenter, vSphere, realm of existence, Hyper-V, or vCloud Director, because it honestly changes on what you want to protect. But basically, you give it a name, and I could take the default here of, say, go every day, and I can add those categories from the backup jobs. I already chose the vSphere backup jobs. In this particular example, there's a folder, and basically, I'm going to put it on this remote site, and in this particular example, it's Windows Server 2012 deduplicated storage. When you drop in all this retention, dedupe is just really the only way to go. I'm going to drop that, select it, and again, those of you who may be familiar with Veeam, right, you've had to do these other retention things, another job, extra backup window. That's gone because it all starts from that first backup window. So that's really a benefit in terms of, you know, dealing with your backup window. And then the direct operation, what did you call it, cold? What was the term? The first time?
That'd be more like if you're doing direct, if you're doing on-site backup,
yeah.
right? So from fast tier backup storage to a slower tier.
Right, and then in this situation, you just, you know, you draw your line, which one is here, which one's there, source and target. And then I like the logic here. The schedule is that it always runs unless you say don't run in a certain window, which is,
Can you not tell it to, does it have any logic to not run if?
Yeah.
It will run as long as it has stuff to do, right? So if it's already done replicating and you just need to wait for the new restore point to appear, the job will technically in a running state, but no transfer will happen.
But there's no consideration for if the job succeeded or failed?
The recovery point would not be available. If the backup job itself is either running or maybe a transform or something else is going on, then the backup copy job, optionally with the WAN acceleration, would flag a warning that the recovery point's not available.
Yeah, but
come home, try again.
What if it runs, it's done running, and there was an error or something like that? Or I've stopped it and it's in an inconsistent state. I don't want to replicate that.
Well, actually, the logic, that's another big thing, is that this is built to accommodate, who's laughing? Am I fly down? No. This is built to accommodate like bad links, okay, or interruption in the network.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. You know, I'm talking about, I want good, this is a garbage in, garbage out sort of problem. I want, if I've got bad data coming in there, you know, I don't want bad data to end up
I understand the question.
You know,
so we don't have a restore point here. You asking if we don't have good restore point here?
Yeah,
what
if I
happens?
don't have a good restore point, I would like that not good restore point to not.
Yeah, it obviously will wait for good restore point, for successful restore point before it starts replicated.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's another benefit of being everything tied together is, you know, again, knowing the content, knowing, hey, this isn't a good restore point, so we're not going to copy it type of scenario.
Yeah. So if I've stopped the job or something like that, I don't have to worry about it.
So vCloud Director support, for those of you who are using it, I'm going to walk through the wizard. This will actually really speak well to those of you who are using it. Basically, much like we do our regular backup jobs based on containers, data store, cluster, vApp, etc., we actually can present the vCloud Director constructs the same way. So I could back up the whole cell. All right, and that's the whole thing. This is actually an intentionally small environment, but you get the point that there's multiple organizations.
Those are org DCs there?
Those are organizations. There's one provider VDC, and then inside of the organization, I have one organizational data center. And then inside of there, there's 2, 3 vApps, and actually I have one, Bob, that you'll like, self-service recovery. I've got a rule set up that a user in an Active Directory group can restore stuff only in their organizational VDC.
Okay.
Files in the guest and whole VM.
Cool.
How cool is that? And that can apply also to vSphere clusters, folders, data stores, VMs by name, you name it. But basically, this job is actually backing up the entire the organization, which in this example is only the 3 vApps. And I'm putting it in a place, right? Backing up the VMs is easy, and we're good at that. It's the other stuff that's important when it comes to VCD. And actually, small thing on the 2750, one of the new things we have here is a credential manager that you can actually put in a whole bunch of credentials so you don't have to retype them all. If the person that doesn't like you, doesn't want to give you the password, let them come over and put it in once, and whenever you use it again, you've got them logged in here. But basically, that's making this, this work. I'll show you when it runs. The best part about it is, much like when we process a virtual machine as part of the backup, we actually process the definition of the vApp. So like right here is a virtual machine. We do our SAN mode, we do, identify the VMDKs, all that good stuff, but as a separate item of the job, the money shot is right here, saving the system configuration of the vApp, right? So that container that we can restore to the same organizational VDC that it came from. We can even restore it to a different organizational VDC with this definition. Hope your networking is the same, but chances are if you're doing that type of migration, you're going to check it anyways. But that's the logic on that. And Gostev, anything to add while I show Plankers the thing that he'll really like?
I'm listening. You're doing good. You're doing great.
Great. Wow.
Better than me.
Okay. Well, just real quick though on the, it's all cool about the backups for vCloud Director, but chances are you really care about the restores. Okay. So, secondly, yeah, if you're using vCloud Director, you also probably have multiple parties involved, internal, external. I know Bob, right? Like the different colleges and departments would be a great use case.
Yeah,
for
that's
this.
exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like I'm ending up to being an ISP for
Yeah, exactly.
our cloud provider for the rest of campus.
So I'm going to show you something that's really cool. Actually, this is me logging in as an administrator. All right, and as an administrator, I have a lot more access than what you would have, of course, as what I call self-service recovery. Now, for those of you who are familiar with that self-service recovery we have right now for files, there's 4 important guardrails around it. The guardrails include that person can't see the file, they don't need permissions in the VMware environment, they don't need permissions in the guest operating system, and they don't need permissions in the backup console. Yet they can restore a file. How cool is that? So anyways, real quick, Bob, this is one of those smaller features. This is actually one of my other favorite ones. But when we talk about this notion of a role, I have this Active Directory group right here. They're what we call a restore operator that can restore VMs, files, and on this list of files, I said you can only do a list, document, Excel, etc., not EDB, not MDF. You don't want those types of restores to go this way. But here's the magic shot right here. This particular example, I have a vSphere folder and an organizational VDC that user or group of users can do restores in as a guardrail of their restore. So what does that look like? If you go logging out and back in as that user, you'll see that they have a much smaller pane of glass. But it is...
How many panes of glass do they have?
It's small.
What's the password? I hope the password's Gartner.
Would petite be a good term? Or?
So you quickly see that all they can do is restore VMs. And this particular person, they right-click. Well, no, not right-click, but they click. And they would click that button to restore the VM, and it launches a job to restore that VM from, in this case, there's only one backup, on behalf of the console. But you can quickly see, they can only see the VMs that are in that, in those containers. And this particular user can only see 2. So that really, the self-service goes hand in hand with vCloud Director. Because you want to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anton, the API will allow most, if not all, of those features in the web interface to be provisioned, right?
Correct.
And that's really the benefit of the API. So if there's a portal, you might not like our yellow screen there, okay? Yeah. But it gets the job done for file restore and VM restore. Maybe an API would be something that would be built into the other framework. So do you want to see anything else? Do you want to see something destroyed in vCloud Director, a vApp come back, or do you trust me? I don't know. Do you want to see it?
I don't ever trust you.
You don't ever trust me?
We know you too well.
So you guys would, no, wrong system.
Steve, you haven't even set up IE10. How can I trust you?
Yeah, okay. So is anybody using vCloud Director?
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys know, right, that if I do this, it's pretty authoritative, right? If I delete a vApp, it's gone.
Yeah, it tends
Right.
to be.
So,
I think delete in most cases is pretty important.
So basically,
This isn't Microsoft.
Alas, poor VM, I knew him, Horatio.
So basically, when I restore a vApp, and I'll be honest with you guys, this is an intentionally small example, but when I restore a whole vApp, it starts a different contextual menu based on what it is. In this case, I'm restoring a vApp. Again, the VMs are easy. It's the vApp config that we want. So basically, I'm going to look from what I've backed up, and I have backed up the nuke, is what I call it, on purpose. There it is, nuke. I'm going to restore it, and I'm going to put it right back where it came from. All those vApp rules, ownership, permissions, everything goes right back to where it came from. Now, if I would have launched that restore to a different location, I could go to a different, maybe organizational VDC, different provider VDC, heck, even a different organization if I wanted to. So dare I say you could use it as a migration tool across, you know, your VCD empire. But basically, we do this.
Restore reason.
Yeah, and it just
He
works.
needs no reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, and actually, in many senses, the engine is much like everything else already Veeam. It's just these extra constructs are accounted for both on the backup and the restore. So while that's going, and Anton, do you want to start talking about
Yeah.
the next feature? Just in the interest of time, we have 15 minutes on the clock there. And actually, it's weird. This is gone, but it'll come back. So,
F5 maybe?
oh, there it is. It came back. You see? I went out, and it's already back,
Magic.
just
I
like
didn't see
that.
it do it again. No, I'm kidding.
But what I, and
You
it,
switched to
again,
another terminal. It's,
and see, actually, this
Yeah,
is
you got some RDP sessions there.
I have situational demo environments, including backups, in case something goes wrong. A hybrid demo environment that's running part from home, part from the office.
AKA smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
So long or the short, I mean, you'll see right here, we have a specific task. It puts it right back into vCloud Director, just as it needs to. So that's awesome. And Anton is now going to talk about the checkbox.
No,
You're gonna open the checkbox.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
It's a big feature, and it's to enable it's just one checkbox. That's it. So what about backup from storage snapshots? Again, it's all about taking RPO down. So previously, most customers had to, backup, end up with daily backups because, they didn't want the snapshot commit to happen overnight, right? I mean, they wanted snapshot commit to happen overnight. They don't want it to go into production hours. So, and that's kind of the old way, standard way of backing up VMware today. You create a VM snapshot, right? You mount it to backup proxy or VDP, VMware Data Protection API, and you read the data and put it in the backup repository. Well, the problem is that the number one problem with VMware backup today is a snapshot commit. If that takes long, especially if it's a full backup and takes a few hours, the snapshot grows very large. And when a backup finishes, when the snapshot is being committed to a VMD case, that puts additional stress on the storage. It's not something not necessarily that you want during your production hours, right? But how you back up more often than daily? That's where actually SAN snapshots are extremely helpful, right? So
Didn't have anything better back in the day.
SAN snapshot happens on the hardware level. It's very efficient, right? And so if we can leverage that, so if we could create VM snapshot, and then create a SAN snapshot and remove VM snapshot immediately, we don't need it anymore because we have everything in a SAN snapshot already. Then the snapshot commit would take just a few seconds because there's just not enough data in that snapshot. Because VM snapshot was alive for only a few seconds between the creation of VM snapshot and creation of storage snapshot. And as soon as you create a storage snapshot, you can go ahead and remove VM snapshot, sure, right? But the challenge is, how do you access the data, the VM data on that snapshot, right? So we are not the first to implement backup from storage snapshots, right? But we do it significantly much better than the bad guys, right? So traditionally what other solutions do is they take the snapshot, the lone snapshot, they promote it to data store, and then they mount the data store to a temporary host, right? That I have on this diagram here. That process itself is actually going to take you 2 or 3 minutes, right? Because you need to initiate some API calls here, make the calls discover new LUN, register it as a data store. Then there is another process that's called VMFS resignaturing. Also takes another minute, right? So it really adds up to your backup time. So we're only talking 3 minutes and we didn't even start the backup yet, right? But let's say the process is finished and temporary host actually sees the VM, right? What happens next is the VM is registered with a temporary host. And that process actually resets CBT, change block tracking data, so you can no longer leverage CBT. So the only way you can perform incremental backups, you actually have to read the whole VM and identify what blocks have actually changed, right? So we're talking, it's still, still more efficient in a way that it helps you avoid that snapshot commit problem with a traditional backup, right? But you can't really achieve very high RPO because of, time to set up everything, then is 5 minutes, then time to, drop everything down because you then need to unregister the data store because you can remove the snapshot. And inability to leverage CBT can't really doesn't let you really go very low on RPO. You can probably do these backups, every once every few hours, but not like really, really fast, very, very rapidly, quickly. So when we're talking about Veeam implementation, all of that is gone, right? There is no this complexity. And that's why it's a single checkbox. I know you didn't open it. That's why it's a single checkbox comparing to, the whole page of settings that you need to set up with traditional solutions that allow you to back up VMware from send snapshots. Our solution is actually smart enough to access that VMFS in the storage directly, right? So we get the data from a send snapshot is still promoted as a new LUN, and the new LUN is mounted to backup proxy, but it's not mounted to another host. It's just mounted to backup proxy directly. Same concept as direct sign access. So if you already have direct sign access set up in your environment for traditional VMware backup, then you don't have to do anything else.
So you mentioned it's LUNs here, so that means that we're talking about VMs that are on iSCSI LUNs?
Yeah.
Not NFS data stores?
Yeah, it's a block storage, yeah.
Yeah, sad face.
Yeah. iSCSI fiber channel, yeah.
Yeah.
It's we're talking HP right now, right?
Okay.
And also because we are not re-registering the VM on the host, right? We're actually able to still leverage change block tracking. So we don't have those, overhead of additional tasks of mounting that LUN to another host. So that cuts down 5 minutes, but we're also able to back up only change blocks just like with regular VMware backup job. So what is the result? You can back up as often as every 5 or 15 minutes during your production hours by leveraging send snapshots, right? Something that was never possible before with a single solution. That's why we think it's very disruptive innovation.
You have it is literally a checkbox. And Anton, what's this?
Yeah, that's actually how we're gonna, so the architecture we have in the product is that plugin architecture, so it's easy for us to add support for other for other storage devices, right? And we are in talks with some other vendors. Of course, it's not just technical, but it's also, other considerations, other business considerations, who we partner with. But the architecture to support other vendors is there. It's very easy for us to add support.
Cool.
Yeah.
And basically,
It's not, what I'm trying to say is not hard-coded for HP and that specifics, right? It's a black box. Other can plug in.
this is where the recoveries come from. We literally just browse in there. But the funny thing is, if those of you who have worked with storage before, especially when it comes to backup integration, no joke, it's a wizard with 3 steps. Where is it? What are your credentials? Okay, that's it. In this case, let's take the left hand just because I have it. Long story, I hacked around vCenter, but I put in the IP of the storage system, then the credentials, detect, it'll determine its type, and go. That's it. So it's a 3-step wizard to have the storage enumerated in the console. But then, once you want to start using it, It literally is the same wizard, but there's quite good logic that says if you have this type of storage, let's do the backups there, and it is a checkbox. Is it going to be default?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have the storage.
If you have it, yeah. So, and that's it. And those of you familiar with Veeam stuff, this is the magic right here. When we look at the log, it's like, don't trust me. Let's look at the log, right?
We don't worry.
As we said, we know you.
So create the VM snapshot, remove the VM snapshot. Those are really all done really before the bulk of the work. And that's the magic right there. So all the heavy lifting of your backup job is done after the VMware snapshot has been done, right? So in a matter of mere seconds, this particular environment is intentionally easy, but you get the point that it's that easy to see that all the hard part within a VMware environment is done outside of the actual data transfer, which this particular environment only had 11 seconds of data transfer.
Well, it can take 8 hours.
It could
easily.
be 8 hours. A full backup, best example. Do that first full backup. If we can leverage the storage snapshot, the pain of that, considering that there's a lot of things going on with like removing the VM snapshot, that's really just totally dissolved. Any other questions? I mean, did you have something to add about the storage integration more? The replica is coming for this.
No. I mean, replica works today, so technically it's not just backup,
That's right.
and you can also replicate, and it's especially important when you're replicating to offsite,
Yeah.
where full backup can take, if there is no seeding, it can take 3 days. That means that then you have a snapshot growing for 3 days, and then it's a commit of snapshot that has been growing for 3 days. It's a big pain.
Array snapshot replicate. It works with replication and backup.
Yeah.
WAN optimization only works with backup at the moment.
Yes.
With replication,
Yeah.
probably on the roadmap.
Next minor release. It was actually scheduled for 7.0, but we had to shift for the consideration the release date, so we had to drop something.
Okay.
It was scheduled to come together. Yeah.
This is our GFS retention kicking in. Again, from that first backup, we built an incredible number of recovery points. Actually, these are the wrong VMs. But basically, you
That's
actually...
why we don't trust you.
Good demo.
Basically, these high numbers of recovery points, the same VMs, I'm keeping 36 locally, but on the remote side, I'm keeping much more as the other VMs are added. Those additional recovery points are rebuilt over. That's the money shot. Our tape support looks the same. The tape, we catalog in a sense of where we've put them on tape.
So you can really invest, some money, but into very fast primary backup target. And again, as I've said, keep a handful of restore points, and then you get all the Veeam magic, like Veeam instant VM recovery, sure backups, everything that simply flying because it's very fast storage. But again, to meet your retention, then you buy, slow and big and slow storage, right? And that's where you keep, months or years of backups.
So is there efforts to go beyond just like the store serve products for the storage snapshotting? To other vendors?
Yep.
Is that public knowledge, or can you not?
We have a plugin architecture, but it's on our side that we need to implement it, right? Yeah.
So from the, there's the business standpoint, right, of who to work with and those types of things. So there's technical and business.
The technical is the easy part.
Yeah.
The sales and marketing is the hard part.
But even when we introduced Veeam Explorer for saying snapshots, we always said we'll extend it to others besides HP, and the same with the backup from storage snapshots. We will extend it to other storage vendors in future releases.
Okay, I guess I was wondering if any of those had been announced.
No.
Okay.
Nothing's announced. We're in research stages on a few. So.
I've got a couple other questions. In version 7, have you done any other work on the scheduling system? In particular, the ability, it's the schedulers, the jobs are really serial right now. Has there been any?
Oh, the 50 plus enhancements.
Yeah, maybe
So-
we didn't get to.
Yeah, it does go in parallel.
Yeah, so these are Anton's
Nice.
top 3.
Okay.
So, and again, if we had all day, we could spend all day in going over all these, additional.
Yeah,
things.
no, these are just the
we did
ones
that
that
with our
occurred.
pre-sales engineers, but
So,
yes, there's a couple of things. One is 64-bit architecture.
cool.
So now we have more memory, right? More CPU, as well as, and that will then give us parallel processing as well. So the data movers, parallel processing, these types of things, the performance increases. This is Tom Seitler. He's our solution architect, one of our solution architects here in North America. And he's been doing some testing at customer and partner sites. And he's, as a Veeam employee, he's blown out of the water in terms of...
If somebody read it, I mean, that's meant to come with my comments, but somebody took time to read it. Just to put it in perspective with current available version, right? Worst case, same environment would get a processing rate of 20 megabytes per second. That's where you create a single job and a sequential processing, right? If you take the same environment and create 8 jobs, right, and start them all in parallel, we would get about 50 megabytes per second, and the bottleneck will be the proxy CPU, right?
Yeah.
With all these changes, we're able to reach 200 megabytes per second with a single job, right? Again, we did a lot of work on
good swag.
yeah.
My other question then, or I've got 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Are you guys ever going to exclude, you guys currently detect and exclude Windows swap. Are you going to ever do that for Linux?
Linux, okay. So
We never say no.
no feature requests.
So no. Okay.
I'll trust, no. But wait,
You're asking the question the wrong way.
You should say, when will you have Linux support? Yes.
Which
So-
distribution of Linux?
Exactly,
Linux,
I'm just asking. I'm
There is-
trying to be funny.
Red Hat, of course.
I'm a Red Hat. I'm a Red Hat family sort of guy.
it's just easier to do with Linux because the Linux swap is typically a separate partition, and we could always exclude individual disks from backup. So people could do it today because they don't have to dig and cut out a
Yeah,
specific
true.
file.
Yeah, true. Then my other question, and Doug and I were starting to talk about it a little bit last night, and then we decided to save it for here.
Thank you, sir.
VMware snapshots really stink, and you guys have built an enterprise basically on a crumbling foundation, if you will. Like until VMware fixes their snapshots. I've got some higher IO VMs that I just cannot use cannot back up with your product, cannot replicate with your product because the snapshot commits are terrible.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing any work? So you see vSphere replication,
Yeah.
Zerto using apparently non-open APIs to do that sort of stuff. Is there any work by you guys to also do stuff like that?
Yeah, even in version 7, you'll see very big improvements. Again, because we didn't really discuss parallel processing in details, but it's not parallel processing just within VMs. It's also within virtual disks within VMs. So it's going to cut your backup windows a few times. And snapshot commit is because, backup takes too long. Snapshot goes too long. So immediately after V7, you'll see significant improvements in that, right? Just because we're going to really cut the backup window. But also that's where we integrate with snapshots. That's exactly the reason why.
Well,
That's
unfortunately, you don't support Sand snapshots don't support an array that I own. And,
Okay.
You don't have a store serve? Come on.
No, and I'm not going
you
to
want
buy.
Cal-
And I'm not going to buy one.
Do you want Calvin's number?
Pardon me?
You want Calvin's
Zito
number?
will sell you
He can hook
two.
up.
Yeah, I'm sure Calvin's going to tweet me shortly here.
I'm surprised he hasn't already.
Yeah.
Wait, my phone
But yeah. Anyhow,
He has a 4-part.
So yeah, we
Didn't the
looked.
boys give you a copy of Versto the last time?
no, I do not have a copy of the Versto stuff. The Versto, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
If they just build that into vSphere and call
Do
it
something
VMFS
nasty in
7.
one hand, wish in the other. Like,
No, but essentially, this
Just
is
to
part
run
of
it
why
in
we're
a
going.
tree.
But the reason that we're going to this type of
reading your labs.
storage snapshot architecture is, again, a lot of our customers have that same issue on snapshot commit, and the easiest way to get around it is to use the storage layer.
Just have something that works to it. Yeah.
Correct, and it's from a vendor perspective, if there was a standard storage API across every storage vendor, then we'd support every storage
we were
vendor.
having that conversation yesterday.
Everybody's different,
how
so
does
and we have to pick and choose. So.
Cool.